I was bullied through the years of elementary through middle school. I would get Gatorade thrown on me pretty much every time. You know, I didn't have anyone I could run to after these horrible days of school. I would hope that I could run to the arms of my mom, but she was never around because she was working to try to support our family, trying to have food on the table. And as much as I didn't see that then, I can see it today. But as a little girl, I didn't understand. From the ages of 7 through 13, I was molested 4 times, all by family members. I told my mom about the one, which was my brother. He was also exposed very much to the sexual acts of my mom, and he began to get curious, and I was the victim of that. I didn't know any difference. I was a little girl. I didn't know if it was right or wrong. I didn't know if it's supposed to happen that way. All I know is that it didn't feel right. I went to my mother and I shared with her what happened to me, and she didn't believe me. So from that moment, I didn't know who to go to because I didn't have family here. All my family's from Poland, and half of them I don't even know. So really, in my head, it was just me, my mom, and my brothers, and my dad. Okay. I thought it began to be my fault for these things happening. I thought I was the one to blame because it was always the anger was put out onto me through my mom. My brothers always seemed to have it better because they at least had each other. I wasn't part of them. I wasn't part of their relationship. I was just alone. I was trying to fight this battle all by myself. And, you know, I realized through trauma therapy today that, you know, people ask me how I survived. I always held on to a little bit of hope. And I hold those words to these days. Kristen knows clearly, you know, when she asked me for the very first time, that little bit of hope is what kept me going as that little survivor. Moving on, the feeling of having no one started my anger with God. I tried crying out to my mom, she wasn't there. So the next best thing, I was taught that God loves me no matter what, so I'm gonna cry out to God. And I didn't hear him. He didn't stop all the bad things that continued to happen. I didn't feel him. I didn't feel his love. So I grew very angry and distant. Moving on. In my teens, I was trying to really just fit in, to find acceptance anywhere I can through high school. You know, there's stereotypes, and, you know, I figured high school's a new beginning for me. You know, elementary, middle school sucked. I was the nerd. I didn't know how to speak the language. Okay, I'm gonna have a shining year in high school. I started to fit in. I felt like I was having an identity crisis because I didn't know who I was. From that moment to childhood, I lost Evelina because I was just trying to fit in with whoever accepted me. And at that time, that was, you know, the punk rock kids, the kids that like the bands and all that. You know, I started to copy them and mimic them, the way they dressed, they did their hair. It was all very new to my mom. She didn't know how to accept this because we come from a family that's very, I don't know the right word to say, they think you're weird. We'll just say that. They think you're weird if you're wearing all black. But she started accusing me of being sexually active at the age of like 14. Started accusing me of using drugs, and I never even heard of those things. I was actually a kid that never did those things. All I wanted to do was go to the mall on a Friday night and hang out with friends. And it was looked at as I'm doing something wrong. Again, a pattern from my childhood. We moved to Spring Hill in about 2006, 2007. In my junior year was the very first time I met my first boyfriend. I've never had a boyfriend. So that for me was the most exciting thing in the world because he gave me everything that I was looking for from my mom, dad, family, anybody. He accepted me, you know. He gave me something that I've never had. He built my self-esteem. He built my value. It was all based on what he did. that was the first time I ever experienced any sort of drug or cigarette. You know, he smoked weed and he smoked cigarettes. Occasionally I would also smoke weed with him because he did it, and I didn't want to lose him. You know, he took away all the pain that I grew up with. He took away all the hurt that I held on to and I buried so deep in myself. So I thought that's what I should do because I didn't want to lose that little bit of feeling that I had with him. That later escalated to me really not knowing who he was. Sorry, I'm going through little bullet points here, don't mind me. I didn't really know who he was. He was everything I wanted him to be at the moment, but he had a dark side, you know. He started experimenting with pills and drugs, and, you know, I acted like it wasn't there, you know, just like my family life. I could block it out, I just move on with life, I survive. I let him do what he does because I love him, and he loves me, and who wouldn't do anything at that age? One day he asked me to take it with him. I was in a very big moment where I had to make a very big choice in my life, a big decision. It was, do I want to lose the only thing of happiness I have? Or do I, you know, make this choice to do this, to not lose it? And I made the choice to not lose him, and I did it with him. After that first time, I didn't even need him anymore. It was that pill. It became the essence of my being, pretty much, so to say. It covered all my past. I didn't even have to think of it. I didn't realize how fast it wears off the next morning, how crappy you feel, but it didn't matter to me because I would chase that feeling of not having to feel, to be numb. Nothing can hurt me. Not anymore. I mean, not anymore. I didn't think it could hurt me anymore, you know. So I became a recreational user, as they say. That's pretty much the beginning of becoming an addict. You use on the weekends. You use because friends are using. You start actually, that stereotype in high school, you start going into the stereotype of addicts because that's what you attract. That's your life. And so I meet new people that are also in addiction. That was my life. It just was pretty much using all the time. But I thought I had it under control because I could still maintain a job, or I could still maintain my presence. You know, I still looked like people would talk to me, so I'm not an addict. My mom and I still, she never knew. You know, she didn't know anything about me. Why would she notice a difference in my behavior when I'm using? I kept it a secret. Nobody knew. Like, at my household, I was pretty much invisible. I just moved along with life. So I had to grow up very quickly. I had to be an adult as a child because my mom wouldn't be there to do that. So in that spirit, I grew up and I just couldn't wait till I reached 18 so I could legally move out. I could not wait for those moments of just sleeping. And that's what I did. I would nanny to make money. And then I also started going to cosmetology school. My mom never pushed me to college or high school or anything like that. She never built dreams for me. She never pushed me to build a dream or anything for myself. So I just followed in the path she did when she did hair. So I followed in that path because I need to do something. I realized in high school, like we as kids, we need to choose something to do in life, and that was it because my mom did it, and I still wanted to be like my mom. I went through cosmetology school, still using, the addiction was building, but I finished school. I finished all the hours, but at that point my addiction started to really end. I became an addict, and I lost that dream. I lived with a friend who also drank and smoked weed. I started pawning everything I had. All the memories, all the little things from grandparents that I never met that I would hold dear anything to lose with her because she was already lost. So I had no fear in doing it because I didn't fear that I would risk her getting angry with me. I went to the extremes of manipulating the most craziest ways to make money. I figured I wouldn't get caught, so, why not? My mind just started thinking of these crazy extremes of what I used to do. Like today I stand here, I'm like, I can't believe I did that. Like, it's just crazy how your mind starts transforming into this dark spirit. You become a person that's just lost, and you really become a dark person. So I lived in this house, and I maintained with the salon job. I was an assistant at Salon 427 in Spring Hill. Again, I didn't fit in there. You see the patterns of all the isolation, abandonment, not fitting in. That really, I didn't realize until now how that really affected me. I carried those things, the feeling of things being my fault, these molestations. Like, I carried that upon my shoulders as a little girl. So, I thought, again, I was maintaining. I paid rent, I was catching up, like I was using, I had money for my drugs. By then I was already using a lot. It was an addiction, but I still didn't see it yet. So it came to the point where I could not pay rent anymore. I was at a bottom of, I couldn't figure out any more ways to scheme money. And I thought I'd never be one of those people that sells their body, because that's an addict. So I would go to my friends, and I'd be like, man, I'm freaking out. I don't know how to pay this rent. And of course, they told me the way to make easy money is go to a club and just be a waitress. Guys like women. Guys like pretty women. So you'll make a lot of money. And that's what I did. I got home, I went online, and I looked up gentlemen clubs in Pasco County. And one of the clubs that just popped up was Dust Till Dawn. And I used to drive by it all the time on US 19. I used to see a lot of cars. I'm like, okay, they got business. I can make money there. In my mind, it was only to be a waitress, nothing more. Because by then, I'm gone. Like, by then, I'm really an addict. So then I just have to start believing that. I was 21 at this point. I called Dust Till Dawn, and I spoke to the owner, Freddie. And he told me to come in the next day. So I did. I had fear because I didn't want to go to that extent. I didn't want to be that girl. But I did because my addiction had a very tight grip on me, and I needed to support it. So I went in. Again, I was trying to make a choice if I should or shouldn't, but I never had a choice in life. So I went with the next best thing is I need to support this addiction to still not feel. Being 21, I walked in. They saw when I was 21, I think it was 2011. I walked in and right away they knew what to spot in me. I was a lost, broken, naive, damaged girl. They knew exactly what to say to pull me in. These people do this for a living, so it's why you could spot that right in my eyes. So that's when they pulled me in. I had a choice. We always have a choice, but where I come from, I didn't. So I made the wrong choice, and I went in. This place was my life since about 2011 to 2015. It's not like what you see, strip clubs. This was a brothel. This was a place where women get dressed up the best they can because their value is based on a man. Their worth is based on a man. You have to look the best you can, and that's when I became Kat. You walk out in a line like cattle. You're treated like an animal, and if you don't get picked, you wonder what's wrong with you. because that's the only way you make money. And if you're not getting picked, you think you're already an addict and you think you're horrible, but then it's like a man doesn't even want you. So, you know, these men don't know where we come from or what's going on in our lives, you know. All they know is they're in there for what they want. They don't care how I feel. They don't care to ask, how was your day? No one cared to ask that. So within working there 2 years, my addiction became to where I became a heroin and an IV user. I didn't want to feel my childhood, but then I didn't want to feel what I had to do to get this money. The pain of having to be with these men is a memory I'll never forget, but it's a memory I can share to help other women because I know how it feels. And I know the feeling of having to value yourself. Because the reason you don't leave is because you're told you're never going to be good enough, better than this, what you're doing. So you stay. Because if you're already valued based on that, you're scared to go out into the world where people are just going to judge you and look at you like you're dirty. Within working there, I actually started being a manager and working at the front desk. You know, I was Kat. I was, like Krista mentioned, the top girl. I felt empowered. I felt like I had control and something going on in my life. And I became one of those girls that once sat in my manager's position when he recruited me. I knew what to look for. Until this day, you know, I think like there were just women just like me that didn't have a way out, that just didn't know what to do. And today I could look back and I could feel the pain for them. Because I remember that pain. That pain's never going to go away. All I can do is heal from it and move on, because that past is always going to be there and it's my story. I fully lost myself to this life. I had nothing. Literally, I had nothing. Just my drugs. I started going to a doctor, pain management. So by then I was doing Xanax, opiates, heroin, methamphetamine. I was doing it all. You can get the picture. I just did not want to feel. I didn't want to even feel anything, not even joy, because there was nothing to have joy for. What I have writing here is Krista started coming in about 2013. This is when I returned to the club because I got into a relationship with an older man that I thought could help me and save me. But really, he just wanted me for his use. So I came back to the club because that's all I knew. I had no idea what else to do in my life. My addiction was still there, and I needed to support it. I needed to feed it. So I went back to exactly what I knew, right to the same club. And Krista started coming in. And man, the feeling when Krista started coming in, this woman coming in, seeing me half naked, was weird. I just thought these women are crazy till this day. These women are crazy to come in here, you know, putting their life on the line, really. These places aren't safe. They're not. They're just full of people that want use out of something, some way, in an addiction. And it's not a good way. It's not healthy. And they came in just to give us hope, you know, these little gift bags, just to give us hope and love, to show that somebody cares. Because obviously we all don't have families, because if we did, they'd try to be getting us out of there. Somebody cares. And then she mentioned God. I didn't like God. I really did not like God, to be honest. I hated him. I hated him because I couldn't understand why he would allow everything to happen that did. You know, there was multiple men coming in a day that I had to feel the same exact feelings over and over and over again. This was a 24-hour club. It never stopped. So I just couldn't understand why he didn't stop it. Who wouldn't be angry at that? He's my father, you know, like he's my heavenly father. You know, no father allows that to happen to his child. So from that moment, Krista would always come in with her original card those gift bags. Those gift bags, I sometimes found, like, in all my, like, stuff I would carry, found random little things people would give, and I'm like, oh, I forgot I put that in there. And, you know, it just, at that moment, that's a memory of, like, oh, I remember when these women came in here. Those little things, because obviously we don't care to take them home all the time, but when they end up in our stuff, they're a memory of who came to show us love. I held on to Krista's gift card, or not gift card, I'm sorry, card with her number for 3 years. Every wallet I changed, it just went in there. Today, again, I see that's God working. He didn't let me let go of that card. I literally changed it with every purse. I didn't even know why. It's not like I wanted to talk to her. She wasn't my friend, you know. She wasn't in the life I was. Why would she want to talk to me? Moving on. So, going to 2014, my dad died. I had my dad, he went back to Poland because he had leukemia. He didn't tell me till the last moments, and by then I had to explain to him I'm an addict. He didn't tell me till the last moments he was this sick, and he went back to Poland to get better health care because of his insurance. My addiction was more important. I didn't care. I became such a careless person, and I never got to say goodbye to him. My mom called me the week that he was getting really sick, and she said, you should get a card to call your father because he might not make it. I used that card to crush up pills, to do lines. You know, I'm going to be very raw. I used that card for everything other than calling my father because of fear. And I thought, okay, the next morning I'll call him. There was no next morning because by the time I wanted to call him, he was gone. So after losing him, I fell apart. I felt like I already lost so much, and then it's like the one person I did have. I didn't have a relationship with him, but he was the person that I could call when I was in trouble because he felt that money was the only way that he could be a father to me, and he took it. He took anything he could do to just be a father and help me because he didn't have a chance. My mom and him had a very rough divorce. She didn't let us go with him. So in those last moments, he wanted to feel some kind of relationship with me, and that's the way it happened. Later in 2014 of August, I got arrested for the very first time for a DUI. I figured it was funny because I did so many other things that I could have been arrested for that I didn't. I ended up being in jail for about a week. First time I experienced withdrawal. Withdrawal is a word that you don't say in the clubs because it's very scary. Actually, the club owner, Pistol John, bonded me out, and that's right back where I went. I had debts to pay now because the bondsman worked with him, and he would come in the club. So, you know, now I had to pay off debts, and there was no choice of leaving because it's the only way I could survive. It's the only way I could pay any bills to have a little bit of hope. As I said in the beginning, just a little bit of hope. You know, and so I continued there. I got deeper into my addiction because now I have stuff on my shoulders that I can't handle. I've never been arrested, so now I have to deal with this. Again, then later in November 2014, I got another serious charge of a felony for possession of methamphetamine and paraphernalia. I was in jail much longer because then I wasn't worth him taking me out. That time he didn't want to take me out because there was too much money. So I wasn't worth it for him. He just figured he could get somebody else. Again, today I just see how God really worked in my life because that was the only way I feel today I could get away from him. Because he wasn't trying to control my life anymore. Freddie wasn't there. Again, I wasn't worth it to him. So I got angry and I said, screw him. I got out on probation in January of 2015. I wasn't ready to quit drugs. My boys were told you have to be ready. but it didn't. I ended up getting arrested for violations of probation. They offered me a program, but again, I wasn't ready. I figured it was a waste of time. I figured it wouldn't help me because I didn't see anybody else getting help where I was coming from. They just kept coming back after these programs. So I chose to take my time of 6 months in jail. I did that. It strengthened me mentally, I think. Not that jail's fun, but it did strengthen me mentally. I had to go through a lot. I had to really stand up for myself. And it wasn't a place I wanted to be because I realized then that I really, again, had nothing and my life was just wasting away. I wasn't accomplishing anything. They ended up actually making a mistake and they put me in jail without violating my DUI probation, like they should have. So, I'm sorry, I got distracted.
I know, it's okay.
So I got out and I had to complete my DUI misdemeanor probation. So I wasn't fully free. There was God working again to have a restraint on me, to try to keep me on that little string of his. So I was dealing, I didn't work in the brothel for about 2 years, from 2014 to 2015, because I was dealing with a lot of probation stuff. I couldn't drive. And at those moments you have to get around there to work. They need you 24 hours a day. I would sometimes work up to 4 days without a break. That was my life. So I figured that's the only thing I knew how to do was to release men and they give me money. I was their only value. I was their only worth. And that's how I gained mine. So I went on Backpage. That's the only way I could support myself. I wasn't, my family ended up finding out what I did. They didn't know how to help me. Again, they didn't know how to be there for me. As much as I wish they did, they didn't. And that's just my life, that's my story, but I was continuing on with everything with my misdemeanor probation. I realized I was not able to finish it because I didn't have enough time. So again, I would be arrested. I didn't know what to do at that time, and at that moment, I was going through my wallet, and I had Krista's card. So, I needed community service hours, and I texted her thinking she was someone totally different. And it ended up being Krista, and I asked her, I said, hey, do you guys take community service hours because I have to complete this probation or I'm going to jail again? She knew that was the opening door of getting me in with her, to speak God into me, to show love, to show that I'm worth it. So I don't even know if she, till this day, if she really needed help with community people working around there. I think it was just her way of getting me in there.
Well, it was like a win-win. We could give you hours and you could just come in and do
yeah,
work.
it was pretty much a therapy session for free. So I figured, okay, this is easy. I don't have to pick up trash on the side of the road. All I have to do is talk to this woman, which I don't even have to really tell her my life. I'm just going to tell her what she wants to hear. So I go there and I sit down with these two women and they just start talking. And first we pray. Again, my mind's not in prayer. I'm like, okay, whatever. But they pray. And that day I exposed the very deepest secrets that I held on to for that long. That was the first day of my release I've ever had. And I cried like a baby. And I don't cry, but I cried because all that pain hurt. It hurt to that core. And I was able to speak it to her. And she understood me. She didn't judge me. She showed me love and comfort. And it's not something that I could have shared with anyone else that would understand. So God worked in a way that He placed me with a woman that could. So there was a day that I went in there very high. She accepted me high no matter what. I was still an addict, yeah, and I was still going to therapy. But she picked me up and I was to the core, blood running everywhere, just falling asleep Joy was there, and Joy didn't even know if I was awake for them to be there, but Krista just decided to play this song or poem, whatever it was. I just didn't want to hear it. I just wanted to be high, but it sunk in somehow. It did, and it was Father's love letter. And I remember she tells me this, because my mind is a little foggy with that situation. She tells me that I just randomly outbursted, if he loved me, why would he allow everything that happened to me? And that was just my anger. I was angry with him. In that moment, she realized that's what it is, that she's angry with God. She has a stone. Her heart is full of stone right now, and we have to push God and show her the love for her to soften. And she took me back to where I came from, and like any normal person would not be hanging around me at this time. You know, any normal person would not want me even in their car with all my crap in the back seat. Probably drugs in her car and paraphernalia. I'm sorry, Krista.
Okay.
But, yeah, she didn't judge me, and just like her slogan is, loving you where you are at, she loved me right where I was at. And that didn't change. So, I had a first rock bottom, quickly moving on to the forward, and I was in a situation where I had a warrant, and I was at my mom's. I had a big fallout. I had about 100 pills on me, and she flushed them down the toilet, and you can imagine as an addict, I went crazy and almost wanted to kill her. So I did. I held knives up to their neck. I was a person that I never thought I would be. Never to my mother. You know, that's the first commandment. Obey your father and mother. I didn't know what that was. So to me, she wasn't my mother. She was just a person trying to take away what made me feel good at that time. I took a lot of time alone that night. I was very enraged. You know, that's as an addict, because I still am and always will be, but I'm just in recovery now. That's a lot of money she flushed down that toilet. So, you know, I took that night, I was angry, and I had to just process, and I'm just like, oh my God, like now I have no pills, now I have no money, now I have no transportation. I just got kicked out of the house that Krista took me to because I was too high. What am I gonna do? Like, I'm gonna withdraw. Kept coming in my head. I'm freaking out. Like, it's taken away my buzz already before it even happened, and I'm just being raw. Like, people need to hear the fact, like, how us addicts think. That is the worst thing we're scared of. I mean, if it wasn't, everyone would be getting clean. So, I, for the first time, prayed out loud, and I said, God, if you're there, I mean, you know, people say you are, but if you're there, if I have to do this, help me through it to where it's bearable. And the next morning, my mom, she was just walking around like I wasn't around because she didn't want to confront the situation, but she took me outside and she goes, you either have a choice to leave this house because I'm tired of waiting for that phone call that's going to tell me you're dead. I don't want to be that mother that has to just sit there and wonder where you are. Or you can accept the fact that we'll allow you to detox here. And we'll help you. That, for the first time, is what softened my heart, because that's the first time I ever heard my mom say that she will help me. And at that moment, I felt a little bit of God. I must have, because I prayed just that night for him to help me. And he heard me. And that was my little sign that he heard me. So I went through this horrible detox, and you know, Krista always told me it's only when you're ready you're going to be able to do this. And she goes, and she told me she'll be right there. So I called her and I told her I'm ready. I had a warrant, so I had to figure all that out. I ended up turning myself in. My family, again, for the very first time, helped me and bonded me out because they wanted me to get help. Krista started working with them to help them maybe understand a little bit. I mean, not to throw it all out on them, but that would freak them out. But to start sharing with them, like, that I do need help, that I'm in a crisis. So I got bonded out. Now I was on bond, and I have to check in. So Krista had me go through all that, and then she found the human trafficking unit at Salvation started a drop-in center there. You know, you can see Chris is always by my side everywhere I go. Just that little pattern. If it's not Pasco, it's Tampa, and now she's here. So, yeah, I still, you know, was going to that. The human trafficking unit at Salvation Army did not offer many groups. It was just mainly a safety house. I didn't know I was human trafficked until Krista told me. I never actually want to believe that because that's a scary word. And again, like she said, it's not chains and it's not someone holding you. Yes, did I get threats to tell my family? Of course. They had my ID. You know, did I get threats if I don't come into work, I'm going to be hurt? Of course. Did I go through a lot of abuse? Yes. Did I have near-death experiences? Yes. All that you can imagine. My story that I'm telling up here is just a big, quick version. But throughout those years, you can only imagine what happened the many times over and over and over again. It never stopped. So, human trafficking is based, for me, my work wasn't there. So that's why I allowed this to happen myself, because I didn't know who I was. I was only a product to these people. So I started getting clean. I didn't have the right structure in this program, but Krista was still by my side, and I was introduced to this program called Created, which they picked me up and did groups with me, and that's how they got into my life, and that's, again, God working for me to opening a door for where I am today. Again, I didn't have the right tools for recovery. I didn't have someone teach me how to live in the world outside. My whole life was based on selling myself and addiction. How can you expect me to walk out there and know how to survive? So I relapsed in July. Oh, I forgot to mention all my legal issues because I really put effort into it. I was trying to do it for myself, you know. I did all the things that I had to for this probation without them even asking me. I just had it complete by the time I went in, and that's the first time I exposed to authority that I was human trafficked. And they terminated the whole probation because they didn't know. Because at that time when I was in court, I wanted to hide it. I didn't know how to just say that. I didn't know how to say my life was revolved around this. That probably could have saved me a lot more back then, but you know, at least I got to say it that day. So the judge just told me, congratulations, you did it, and that's the first time I felt accomplished in something. I felt free, but that free is a scary thing because, again, I didn't know how to survive out there, and I relapsed. I continued on this drug use, this path. I was in motels, hotels. You know, my mom kicked me out because she thought I was clean, and then I relapsed. So she was just tired. She gave up on me. She saw this pattern, you know, the first time, and now this. So she just didn't know how to believe me. So she kicked me out, and I was on the streets for a while. I just carried trash bags, and in those trash bags, I carried my schoolwork. And I continued to, when I had free time high, to do this schoolwork because I still have that hope of getting there one day. And that dream of being this cosmetologist. So that never was taken from me. I was in these motel rooms many days, many nights. I developed pretty much, as you can see, an abscesses on my arms. It got intense. I started not caring where I was shooting up anymore. It just, again, I just wanted to die. Why again am I put through this? I was too ashamed to go to a hospital. I didn't think I deserved their help. And it got to a point where it got really bad and I got kicked out of a motel because I had blood running down everywhere. And I didn't have Band-Aids. I didn't have anything to cleanse these wounds with. And I thought I could heal them myself. I can't do that. Only a professional can, because this is an infection that could get to my heart and cause endocarditis, which could kill you. Many friends have died. I've lost so many people to this, and I realized I was starting to get very paranoid in this last place I was at. I was staying with a friend, quick story. I was staying with a friend and his family didn't want me there. And this was an abandoned house, and if no one wants to be in an abandoned house, that's pretty low. And this guy said, it's gonna be Thanksgiving, she has nowhere to go. And he had to fight with his grandpa to book me a motel because this grandpa thought I was just using his grandson. And I wasn't, I was just wanting a friend. I just wanted a friend, I just wanted someone I could talk to, I just wanted someone to accept me. And that grandpa didn't allow it, and so he tried booking me in the motel that I was kicked out of, and I couldn't go back into. So I had no place to go. So then, what I felt, he booked me in the Hilton. You know, me walking in there was the worst feeling I've ever felt in my life. Because it felt like he was mocking me. Because I didn't belong there. You know, these people are there on vacation to see their families, like children running around. Like, that was supposed to be my life. And here I am walking in with dark trash bags to go into a room by myself. I didn't realize the pain of that until like I could feel today, and that's like, it was something to shame me, to show me again, to devalue me. These patterns really worked in me and grew to the point where I didn't know who I was anymore. I lost myself. I just became Kat, and that's all who I introduced myself by that to everybody. So I got to a point where this infection was really causing me a lot of anxiety. Like I knew my body when I was high, and I wasn't even getting high. And it was scary. I knew something was spreading. I didn't know what to do. I prayed to God that night. I'm like, God, please help me again. Like, I'm calling out to you. And I just had this vivid dream where I know he spoke to me. I really know he spoke to me. And that morning, I woke up and I called Krista, bawling. I'm like, she tried to get me help before I called her, but you know, you have to want this. And so she stopped. And when I called her, she just said, I knew you'd call me. And that's all I had to do was ask for help. So she found a detox for me on November 23rd. I went to DACA detox, and then I continued that, and I told myself, I want to do this for me. I want to do this for me. I don't want to do it for the courts. I don't want to do it for my family. I don't want to do it to impress people. I want to do this for me because I deserve this. And I made a plan with her. I told her I'm going to go into detox, and then I'm going to go to Created because they had housing. Created, again, as you see, was a place in my life last year. So now I had access to go to a program where they helped women that were sexually abused and in the sex industry, which is perfect for me because I realized in my addiction it wasn't about the drugs. It was about the root of the problem of how I felt and my emotions. And that's what I needed to figure out, and that's what I needed to heal from. Because I realized 2 years down, if I just get clean from drugs and those hurts and pains are still there, I'm still going to try to find a vice because I don't want to heal. So the main important thing I realized is I need healing deeply from all the pain and all the abuse and all the trauma that I went through. So I had to wait for a bed with Created. I was placed in a transitional housing because I couldn't be with my mother, and I knew my recovery. That's the first time I stood up for my recovery, and I told Krista, I had a voice. I said, I can't do this. If I'm going to stay clean, I need to go somewhere right now. And she found me TN24. I stayed there. Thought I was going to continue that process there, but I realized, and that's when I called her, I said, no, I need healing. I don't need just drug recovery and substance abuse. I need healing for the pain. So I knew Created is where I needed to go, and I knew that God was pushing me there, but I had to walk in faith. Because I knew, but I didn't know because I was scared. So I called her and I said, I want to go to Created, and I told her there's a lot of women here suffering silently in pain the way I did. It's not just about their addiction. And so she started a group there. She started coming there and doing a group. And that's when I had that first time to speak all my secrets. These women did. So again, we worked, God worked in our lives to go to another place to spread God's love. I got into Created January 16th. hard months just to get where I am today. I'm clean 6 months, so. Clean 6 months, I completed outpatient. I just graduated last Tuesday. That was a lot of walks of faith because there's many moments I just wanted to walk out and say, excuse me, F you.
Her DACO drug outpatient.
Yeah, it's DACO drug outpatient because, you know, I had many, many things where the enemy tried to work. And that was God building my voice and building myself to stand up for me because they tested me, or I tested positive when I was sick, and it was a cold medicine. And I knew for once in my life that I didn't do anything wrong. And that's when God built me to stand up for myself, and I did. And I fought for them to send this test out. And that's exactly what it came out, that it was cold medicine. Because I didn't want that positive on my record if it wasn't a positive, because I knew for once that day I didn't do anything wrong. And that's when I started realizing all the stuff in my life, it wasn't me. It wasn't just my fault. And that's where I started growing. So from there, many things, many trials and tribulations happened with this outpatient. Again, Krista, before she took me to detox, said that was the worst she saw me because she saw the fear of the nurses of when I had these infections. It was scary. I was scared. So it's just wonderful for her to get to see me today and work with me through this whole process of from 2013 till 2017. She's been there by my side. She, I can't explain how much the consistency of someone coming into a place really helps a woman like me. You know, we already have trust issues. We already have fear. We don't know who you are. We don't know who God is. But the consistency of someone coming in and telling us that we're worth it really does help, because here I am too. So, and it took a while, and it's not easy, but it works. Things I've gained, I started EMDR trauma therapy, which I'm getting healing from my past. I am in the process, June 9th, I'm taking my cosmetology state exam where I will be a licensed cosmetologist.
Woohoo!
I like to say the things I've gained is trust, I gained love, I gained worth, value, friends, community, regaining something with my family that I never had, and facing my fears, because this is one of them, speaking in front of people.
It's her first time.
And I've gained healing. And you know, the most important thing I've gained is a relationship with God, because if it wasn't for Him, I wouldn't be here on this side. And God's really worked in my life, and I was an unbeliever. Believe me, I was at the lowest level with Him, because I didn't think He cared, but He's really worked in my life. And you know, I had moments of doubt, like when I was going through my process last year, where I'm just like, yeah, this is not real, He's not there. I still had a lot of doubt, but today I can stand here and say that He does care, and He does love me, and so it's a wonderful thing. But I'm going to end with something I just really want to. Do I have time?
You can go, do what you got to do.
Okay. I want to read this last thing really quick, because it's something that I carried also through my relapse, and it's something that Krista wrote at a Jesus encounter I went to, and it's just always my comfort. So, she wrote, "Sweet Evelina, I'll never forget the night we got to pray with you on outreach. The van broke down, and we had to have another vehicle brought to us, which allowed us to get to your location when the boss wasn't there. We later found out the van was completely fine when they drove it back, so we knew it was for a divine appointment, and that was with you. God will do whatever He has to in order to get to His children, and He was in hot pursuit for you. Then after seeing you, the place closed down, and we didn't hear from you or see from you for 2 years. We always prayed for you. You can imagine the shock I was in when I got your text 2 years later. I couldn't believe you held on to that card for so long. God again had things lined up perfectly for you. We just opened the Pasco Drop-In Center to bring you and just love you and listen. Many times you would be so high, but we would still love you and meet you where you were. I remember telling you when you were ready, when you were tired of the rat race, we had a plan, but it had to be your choice. At times I didn't even know if you would remember our conversations, but you did. I was so happy and praising God the day you called me and said you were ready to detox. I would talk to you while you were detoxing, and you would tell me, I know God has to be helping me because it should be much worse. In that moment, I knew He was beginning to get into your heart. Then came the big day that we were able to get you into the HTU unit. I was so happy for you, and again, God had it lined up perfectly that we would have a drop-in center there, and I would be able to continue this walk closely with you. You have grown so much, Evelina, and I am so proud of you. You are a smart, strong, intelligent woman that can do anything you put your mind to. I know God has a great plan for you, and you are going to be a kingdom builder. My heart bursts with joy the more I see you running into your Father's arms. I know some days get tough, but you press into Him and bounce back. Evelina, He truly is giving you beauty from the ashes, and the best is yet to come. Never forget how much you are loved, and that your past doesn't define you. You are an overcomer that I am honored to know. I feel so blessed to be able to walk alongside you in your journey. I love you, and can't wait to see what God has in store for you. Love, Krista. So that was just a great